It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause. And MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
Dear old work platform, it's not you, it's us. Actually, it is you. Endless onboarding? Constant IT bottlenecks? We've had enough. We need a platform that just gets us. And to be honest, we've met someone new. They're called Monday.com, and it was love at first onboarding. Their beautiful dashboards, their customizable workflows got us floating on a digital cloud 9. So no hard feelings, but we're moving on. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.
Okay, we are recording and we're back with Mike and Ken on My Uncle's Escaped Alcatraz. And today, I think we're going to talk about what we should talk about is the findings from the photograph that we revealed that we think could be John Anglin down in Brazil. And we sent it off to Michael Street. His pronunciation of his last name again?
Street,
that's what I thought. So Michael Street, who does photo analysis. He's been doing it for years. He's actually been on the podcast. And we'll probably have him on the podcast again to kind of discuss this photo. But I think we wanted to get this information out as soon as possible because we were pretty, we weren't surprised at his findings. And I think anybody who has seen the photograph that we posted online on the last podcast can, with their naked eye, kind of see the similarities, the drastic similarities in the two photographs of John's mugshot and this photograph that was sent to us through two separate sources, as far as through the internet, through, I think, Mike, you said you found it on Reddit and that someone else posted it from Brazil, and it's been on there for a little while. But what's really interesting is that now we have an official photo analysis of it. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you thought when you sent it to Mike. I mean, when you sent it to
not me, Michael.
Michael.
I'm Mike.
Michael.
He's Michael.
Yeah. Michael, yes.
Keep us straight.
Yes. And what you think? I mean, what you think about the results, and what was your first initial reaction when you saw it?
Well, so the very first, go back to Michael Street for a second. So sometimes I want people to know that this isn't someone that I are so friendly with that he will take a photograph and look at it and give me positive information because I've become friends with him now. The first time I ever even heard the name Michael Street was from Art Roderick. And this was back in the History Channel documentary we did in 2015. The History Channel wanted Art Roderick to take the photograph that we gave him, which was the famous 1970 photo of John and Clarence in Brazil. And they wanted him to have it analyzed. So Art went to someone, we didn't know who he went to. We didn't know at the time that Michael Street worked with the U.S. Marshals. He was teaching this technique that he has at their academy. And so we were blown away when we saw the clip in the show itself. They never even let us look at it until the night that it aired. So, kind of give you a little bit of information on Michael Street. I mean, I did some looking up on him. He's got 45 years of doing this facial recognition imaging. He's like an expert at it. He has helped track down cop killers, serial rapists, and other violent predators. He's also been involved with kidnapping, robbing, stabbings. Of course, he did the 2015 Alcatraz analysis of the photo. He's taught over 1,000 classroom hours at the Federal Bureau of Investigations, along with the U.S. Marshals. So he's not like just someone that we've, found on the internet and said, okay, let's let him look at this photo. And also, too, even after I got to know him, Mike and I thought we had run across another photo of John Anglin, and I sent it to him, paid him, pretty good bit of money to look at it, only for him to come back and say, no, this isn't John Anglin. So it was pretty devastating. We had him look at another photograph right after that we thought might have been a comparison to John's wife. And that turned out not to be anything positive. So, when I looked at this photograph, I was on the fence a little bit. I was like, okay, I was really expecting Michael to come back and say, the same thing. I'm not real sure about this. Or there were some similarities, but not a lot. So I was completely blown away when he sent me the results.
Yeah.
I just the very first thing I did was I sent it to y'all. I can't believe that he had such a positive response to this photograph. And I'm looking at some of the details of it, but he took that photo and he compared it to two existing photos that he already had of John. He had one of his mugshot in Alcatraz, the famous mugshot you've seen on TV a lot. And he also took another of his mugshots, which was out of Atlanta when he first got to the Atlanta prison. And so he used those two because they were at different angles, and he was able to, the hairstyles were a little different in each of them. But it is just amazing. I think he did a total of 10, 12, 11 comparisons.
Right.
Different spots on his face. And every single one of them matched or became so close to the other photographs, that it was just totally amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah. Now, when you sent it to me, I was looking at it on my phone and had to read it like 10 times because I wasn't, it wasn't sinking in that it was, I knew when we looked at him like that, but he really kind of broke it down to the nth degree. And the fact that it was so favorable and, and that it really hit all the markers that he goes by was pretty astounding.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at this comparison to the one that he did in 2015 with the Brazil photograph of John and Clarence, John's photo, I think he was able to decipher 5 points off of it. This one, like I said, he did 11. So much more detail, a very more up close photo that he's comparing to, whereas the other one, with kind of a little distance, had sunglasses on, kind of grainy, wasn't as clear. Still, reasonably you could look at and see certain facial features that he used. But this one, oh my gosh, you could probably take your iPhone and scan the photo of this individual and then the photo with one of the John Anglin photos in the prison. Probably could unlock your phone with it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That's how clear it is.
That's what I was saying the last thing. I said you could actually take that photo if he had like a TSA or Clear account. You could probably put that photo right up there, and it would like completely allow you access into an airport or access. I mean, it was so, I mean, dead on all the stuff. Well, let's break down. What were some of the things that he really highlighted in that photograph?
Well, so he looked at his forehead. So he labeled each of the pictures K01 and K02. K01 and K02 are his original mugshots from prison. So if you hear you say K or K1 or K2, that's his mugshots. Q1 was his photo from Brazil that we were comparing to. So on his forehead, the Q1, which is the one from Brazil, matched the K1 and the K2. Had all similar facial lines, the broad, the rectangle part of his forehead. He looked at the forehead wrinkles, the wrinkles that are inside of your forehead. That matched the K1, which was his photo from Alcatraz, which is a really up close photo of his headshot, and it's in high resolution, so you can really see the wrinkles. Which I never thought about. Your wrinkles might be the same. I never thought about wrinkles kind of being like a fingerprint that everyone has it differently. He looked at the angle of his upper left ear. There again, on the the original picture of Alcatraz, Brazil photograph, you're not able really to see his one of his ears. So he only had the opportunity to compare, I think, his left ear in the photo. But in this one, he was able to look at the left ear. It matched both of the prison photos. He looked at his the lines around his nasal cavities, which matched both of them. He looked at his mouth lines, which matched both of them. His chin tip, he was able to match to both. His left nostril angle matched to the K2, which was the one out of the Atlanta. The nostril angle matched, the mouth matched, the angle of the right ear matched, the fold around his right nasal side matched, his eyebrows matched, his outer eye crease matched. Other things that he looked at was the hairstyle, the length of the hair with his Atlanta photograph and the photograph out of Brazil, the recent one. He had the same length hair, so he was able to match the hair. He was able to take the nostril shape, the shape of it, and it matched exactly. He even took the outline of the head and overlaid it onto the photograph from Brazil, and also from the Brazil photograph to the one of his prison photographs, and they actually matched up. So, I mean, I don't know how you can say that this photo isn't, oh my gosh, way better than the one he looked at in 2015.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Did you actually talk to Michael on the phone after he said it to you?
I have not. I have spoken to him from just email, but one of the things that was really kind of amazing that he did say here was that he did quote how that in 2015, he made that observation to Art. He said, in my opinion, if it was me, I would saddle up the posse.
Yeah,
he thought it looked amazing. And he said in this one, okay, there is a strong support that this person depicted in Q1 shares similar facial pictures to John Anglin, supporting further investigation about the image and any other related images following up. Meaning that if it was him, this is something that the FBI and the U.S. Marshal should follow up on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they were willing to follow up on that photo from the 1970 photo. He's saying this one is even better.
Yeah. I agree. It's just it's
I mean,
stunning.
it just totally blew me away. I was thinking, because the way that he came back and didn't find positive stuff on the last two photos that I'd sent him, I was really expecting the same thing. I mean, Mike, what did you think? You were involved in the two that we sent him. What was your impression about this one? Did you hold out a lot of hope?
Well, I thought it was going to be more likely to be yes, because as Ken said, from the 75 photo, it's taken from a distance. It's probably about 20 or 30 feet. And the facial features, again, like Ken said, the photograph is not crisp and clear. It's a little fuzzy. It's a little grainy. It's from a distance. And so you're not going to get a lot of up close features. You're only going to hit the major, like the ear or one ear, because his face is tilted away from the camera a little bit. The chin, the forehead, and that's kind of really all you have. And he's wearing sunglasses, so you can't get, eye positions very well. You can kind of guess a little bit. Whereas this one, it's like a mugshot. It's a very up close photograph. And I think Marcio, who ultimately provided us the photograph, said it was a work photo. I think he said it was like for your work badge. I think he said it was that kind of a photo. So it's
an official photograph, like
right. It's a face shot.
Right.
And so it's up close. And so you have very minute detail you can look at. You can measure things, like Ken said, the ear shape, the nose shape, where the eyebrows are in conjunction with the eyes and the chin. And, he has 11 data points that he can very clearly compare to the mugshots of John that are roughly the same size and the same distance from the camera. It's like a mugshot in a way.
Yeah.
And the thing that, like Ken said, he listed off all the different similar. Not one point in the report does it say dissimilar. He has nothing in there that's a negative. It's all positive. And for me, the most interesting aspect of the report was, as Ken mentioned, it was the overlays that he takes part of the older John photo and he overlays it with the mugshots, and you can't really tell the difference between the two, other than he has a little bit of a different color palette. There's the black and white, and this one's sort of a kind of a sepia color in the new photograph, the older John. Other than the color, it all matches up. It's eerie how close it matches up.
Yeah. Talk about was there any mention about, like, you were talking about the scar that John had? Does he talk about that at all?
He does not bring out the scar. Now, interesting enough, though, the individual who sent us the photograph had physical contact with him at some point in time. And he did mention that there was a scar on his left cheek. That really kind of matches up if that's true. And you can almost see this scar in this up close photograph. If that is true, then that definitely will match up to what the FBI report details about John's facial characteristics that's listed in the FBI reports.
Yeah.
That he had a scar on his left cheek.
Yeah. What was interesting too is like the older photograph that was sent to you guys. When you start looking at the eyes, and I was looking at photos of your mom, Ken, from the thing. Their eyes are very similar to your mom's and this picture that could potentially be John's.
Something he did not mention in this, and now when you say the eyes, that just made me think about this. The FBI report does list the color of his eye. I know this was up close. It might be close enough to look at the color. That might be another, item that.
And what color was his eyes?
I need to go back and look at the FBI report. Mike, you can probably pull up on volume 2 the characteristics of John. I think it's a few pages down into volume 2, but it does identify his height, his weight, and I believe it gives his eye color.
Yeah.
Well, and just one other thing I want to throw out about the photograph is, and actually, Rob, you've commented on this. is, and it's not in the report, but it's the expression in the older John photo where he's pursing his lips. They're pressed together in a certain way, and his head is kind of tilted forward a little bit, kind of looking down slightly. And in the Atlanta photograph, the expression is almost identical. It's almost the exact same, just the way that he holds his face when the photograph was being taken. It's sort of that muscle memory 50 years later.
It's a resting face.
Yes.
You know, the resting face is identical. Just the way his brow is, the way his, like you said, his lips are pierced, and then just even that kind of little head tilt, you know, that he would do. So it's pretty amazing how it's just, I mean, anybody with the naked eye can actually see the similarities. The fact that now we have data points and an expert like Michael Street, who, you know, has a wealth of knowledge about doing this, and he's broke it down. Can't wait to talk to him about it, you know, and see what he, you know, how he kind of broke it down. But I mean, that report is, it's dead on.
Right. Oh, now I would love to take, you know, Michael, I even asked him for a percentage, and he said he doesn't give percentages only because he has just never done that. You know, he said it can be subjective. But I would love to now take this photograph, and the guy that we used in Expedition Unknown from Ident TV, you know, he does do this. And I would love for him to take this photo and go through the same process that he did with the 75 photo and just see how well and how close this matches.
Yeah, because that was Amro. Yeah, he didn't. I remember he said, I remember when we were talking to him, he goes, why are we even talking about this stuff anymore? Because isn't it, because he goes, didn't we just prove that earlier? So it's just like, it's like you have these experts who are basically who law enforcement and the federal agencies would use to identify a photograph, basically saying, oh yeah, that's them. It's like 99, we don't do 90 or 100%, but I would say 99.7% is that it's them. And you have these, and then Michael Street give us this report, and obviously the law enforcement doesn't know about this photograph, or they do now if they've been following the podcast. But I'd be curious to see if, if you had a suspect that you were looking for that matched these, you know, how many years later, you know, many decades later, would this be verifiable? And I think if they had that photograph, I would be surprised if they would say, oh no, we wouldn't go check this out.
Well, I mean, you know, you go down to the airport today and you give them your passport, and they look at you with a photo, with a machine that is comparing your facial photo to that photograph that's in your passport. And they'll come back and say, oh yeah, that's Rob, or that's Cindy, or Mike, or Ken. I mean, if they can use that technology and they can identify who a person is and will accept that as legit, okay, they can do the same thing with this photo.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is close enough that they should be able to, like you said, the law enforcement, look at this photo and go, oh my gosh, this is the same person.
Yeah.
So,
well,
and
I don't think they even do. I mean, we just, you know, we're actually out of town. We flew in, and then we went through security, and security is different now. So these TSA guys don't even look at your photograph. They just take your ID, they run it through the thing, and then you stand through a scanner. And if the two match up, then you go. So they're not even using the naked eye anymore.
Nope.
So it's literally scanning the data points in your face. And if it matches up, you're through. So it's like, they're not even using that. So I would say that, you know, if Amro did something similar to that, I can't imagine he wouldn't come back with 100% match, because it's like, it's so, just from the naked eye, it's so clear. Now, whether or not this person who we've found out is no longer living, and I believe it was 2016 or 17 that he passed on. We're actually culling all the records right now. We have someone working on that to try, you know, death certificates and that kind of stuff, and we'll have that information soon. But I'm just curious to see what kind of if it was John, at what lengths that he went to really cover his identity. We do know we're not going to reveal his name yet, but he used a different name, different country. So it's going to be really interesting when we get the rest of these records to see what kind of pans out. And then we were looking at it, Mike and I. Remember you and I are exchanging texts about, because we also there's another photograph that was sent to us, more of a more candid photograph of this person we believe is John standing in front of his house, and it's kind of like from the waist up, and it's kind of 3/4, so you can actually really see him. You can see what he looked like, his body type and stuff like that, and then also some images of the neighborhood he lived in. And one of the things I saw, it was actually a video. It was like a drive-by video of the neighborhood, and it was and Mike checked it out. It was a gated community, and one of the things I thought was really interesting is that all the houses look like were from the region in that area, in South America, the architectural style. And then the house that was pointed out to us that was potentially John's, was like an A-frame house that looked like something from North America, or a small town in the Midwest, or maybe anywhere. And I thought that was interesting, that house was so much different than the other ones. And then we found out that from our source that this person, John, who we think is John, actually built the house himself. And that's when we talked about that, I think on last podcast, where John and Clarence and other family members all helped build the family house. Mm-hmm. So you have a bunch of more data points, or circumstantial evidence that kind of points to this person. And and it was also a gated community. Mike, tell us a little about when you kind of surveyed it on Google Maps, what you saw.
Yeah, so we were able to get the address of this individual's home. We'll just call it John's home for the sake of discussion. And fortunately for Google Maps, you have the aerial shots, that he's taken all over the world. Unfortunately, because it is a gated community, the trucks that they use to go around the different neighborhoods to photograph, the homes, they weren't able to go inside. So we don't have any, other than the video that we've been getting. We have 2 videos of driving through the neighborhood and pointing this out of being John's home outside of Sao Paulo. The only other way of looking at the home is from above, from the satellite photo. Yep. But you can get pretty close with those photos. It's not ground level, but it's close. And so, just going around, the neighborhood, you can see there's a front gate and a back gate, and there are people. They're not guards, but they're security people at each gate. You have to go through there, so you can't just drive in and drive around the neighborhood. You have to get permission to get in. And usually that's, if you've ever been trying to get in a gated community, you prearrange your visit with the people you're going to see. And so when you show up at the gate, you tell them your name and they check the list. Oh yeah, you can go on in, and you go to your friends or family's home. You can't just say, oh, I just want to go drive around. They won't let you. But somehow they're able to get into this gated community. We don't know how they're able to do that. And it's sort of odd that we were talking before the show that, the relationship between John and the person that we're in contact with in Brazil that's giving us a lot of information said that he didn't really know John that well. They were co-workers at a deer factory. He kind of knew him. And yet
John, you mean John Deere Factory, right?
Yeah, John Deere Factory. That he kind of knew him, and yet how is he able to visit his home? How does he know where he lives? How is he able to gain entrance into the community? It seems like the relationship is stronger than somebody would just be a casual coworker. But going back to the house, looking at the aerial photo, this gated community, there's probably 200 or 300 homes in this, sort of this little hamlet area that you can only go in through 2 different ways through the gates. And if you scan the area, like you said, it's the only A-frame house in the entire community. There are no others other than where the John house is, which is, again, as you said, it's a very American or North American style home, whereas the others, they're more flat roof style of houses. That's just kind of the architectural design in that area. And this one does stand out just by its shape. And just one other thing I want to mention, or two other things I want to mention, is that, again, the person that's, working with us said that, the John that he knew at the John Deere factory had a somewhat of a secretive past that he said not even his wife knew about. So somehow he knew that John had secrets that he kept about his past, didn't talk about it. He didn't know what it was, but just he was holding things back. So again, if this is John Anglin, bank robber, escapee, that would be aligning up with this. That's not the kind of thing you discuss. Oh, by the way, I'm a fugitive. You don't talk about those kinds of things. So again, it's more circumstantial evidence that lines up toward rather than pointing away from. Every time we get more information, it's toward them, never away from them. And then last thing I just want to mention, I did look up in the FBI report, and John had blue eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Kind of hard to see from the photograph that I have here, but I can look at the one online and zoom in.
I just briefly looked at the photograph that was sent to us about older John, and because of the way the picture is and kind of the color scheme, it's almost like it's kind of hard to describe. It's like it's like you've taken a picture on a TV from a TV screen.
Right.
The colors kind of bleed a little bit.
Right.
And so one eye seems to be kind of like a brownish color, and the other eye seems to be a dark blue. But I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't see anything brown. Brown and those kind of photos end up looking like they're black. So if it's like anything like,
but I don't think that's accurate. I think that's just because, like I said, I think the colors are bleeding a little bit.
Yeah.
And the photo was actually taken from a computer screen. So
that would make sense.
The individual who we've been communicating with knows someone who works in this community. Is kind of like, it's not a 55 and over type community. It's more, like you said, a gated community. And that photo, according to the individual who gave it to us, it's kind of like how in my community you have to have a badge with a photo, and this is typically what they do. They do it for records. So it's a photo where he came by the office and they snapped it. And so it's in a computer screen, and she pulled it up on the computer screen and they took a picture of it. So that's the reason why it kind of looks like grainy a little bit with
Yeah.
lines. But
even with that, though, Michael Street was able to get verifiable information.
Well, it's like Mike said. The original photograph we sent him from 1970, it's like 30 feet away. You know, it's a long distance shot. He's got sunglasses on. Even though this one was taken from a computer screen, I mean, it's up close. And so you have much more detailed features that you can use. And there again, Michael was able to take up to 11 different points compared to just like 5 off of the original photo from 1970. So I mean, like Mike said, out of the 11 points, not one of them came back with a negative, this doesn't match. Every single one of them matched. And so, thinking back what you said about the photograph, when you go to an airport and they take your passport and they scan your photo and match it, I really kind of wonder what kind of percentage would they accept to say, okay, you're Rob and we're going to let you in. Is it 99.7? Is it if it came back as a 99.8, would they let you in the airport? Or does it have to be 100% match? And so with that is, I guess what I'm saying is I agree with Ambrose. He came back with a 99.7% match of the one from 1970. If he came back with this one and then it was 99.9, I mean, isn't that the same thing that the airport people, the TSA, would allow you into the airport with?
Yeah.
I mean, will they ever come back and say you're 100% match?
Yeah. And if it was someone that was a fugitive that was out now, like when they were looking for that young man who shot the healthcare exec, and all they had to go by was like his bushy eyebrows,
right?
From the mask, and they were able to match him and find him from that. I mean, this is like dead on, fully exposed, full frontal face, like just like a mugshot. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't this be proof? I mean, I think this is kind of earth shattering. I mean, it's like, I really do think this is kind of the smoking gun photograph here.
I totally agree. I thought the 1970 photograph was a smoking gun. I would say, this is even better than a smoking gun.
Exactly. Well, and another match that we have to go in is that the person who we're examining now, talking about, died in his 80s. He was about 86, between 86 and 88, depending, but probably closer to 86. Died in his 80s. Well, if this person is John and he died when we think he died, then we know he would have been in his 80s. He would have been about that age. So again, it matches. It's not where he died in his 70s, he died in his in his 80s, which, for men is a little unusual to live that long. It's, not uncommon, but again, it's just another data point that lines up perfectly. If John had been the age when you think he died, he would have been around 86.
Yeah.
So again, it points to him, not away from him.
Yeah. And then John, I mean, and your family, your mom is, she's up there in age. I mean, your grandfather lived,
92. He was
92. I mean, and
I had a quick question. They were so about secrets and codes and all these things. He put down that the birth date is June 21st, 1932. Was there anyone in your family born on June 21st? Do you know if your grandparents or?
I will have to go back and look and see to get the actual details. One of the things, though, that this kind of matches up to something that Fred Breezy said. Fred said that when the 3 men got to shore before they boarded the plane, that they had new clothes waiting on them. They had a new passport and ID waiting on them, and they had cash in their pockets. So I often kind of wondered, okay, well, if they got a new ID and a new passport was waiting for them, it was already prepared. I often wondered what kind of name was on that passport. And I wondered if it now is who this individual John used throughout the rest of his life, was this new ID. And, I mean, this time frame, 1932, is around the same time frame that he was born. I will have to look up that date, though. I haven't had the opportunity to see the death certificate, but I will compare it to some of the other pieces that we have of other family members and see if there's anything that stands out to me.
Although again, we're not going to reveal the name now, but I will say this, that the identity of this person is not Brazilian. It's a non-Brazil. It's not, Jose Hernandez,
Exactly.
It's not that kind of, it's a name that somebody who is Caucasian would use, a separate identity.
And also from a different country.
Right.
A country that could be associated with, I don't want to give it away, but
right. But for us,
a Caucasian person would be from this country. We'll put it that way.
Exactly.
So it's interesting that the identity that they assumed was not a Brazilian identity. It was from another country.
Yeah. Because he doesn't look Brazilian.
No, not in the least. And he wouldn't have a Brazilian accent. Even if he learned Portuguese, he would be, everyone would pick up that he's a foreigner.
Exactly. Because I'd imagine, Cindy, you've done immersion with language. How long does it take you to learn a different language?
Okay, I knew French in college. I studied it, right? When I moved to Paris, it took me about a year to become fluent. It doesn't happen in a day. It takes a while. So if he moved to Brazil, it probably would have taken him maybe 6 months to a year to become fluent, or at least enough to get by. But if he was supposedly from this other country, he could pretend he didn't speak the language,
Well, and the only way we're going to really truly have the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, is we need to discover where he's buried at. We need to travel down there.
Yeah.
We need to meet with the family members that are still there, and see if we can get permission to have him exhumed.
Yeah.
And take his DNA. Or, it's even possible that, and a lot of times, I didn't realize this, but a lot of funeral homes nowadays will take DNA and store it, so that if the casket is ever lost or whatever. I remember one time we had a flood and where I grew up at, and all these caskets went floating down the river, and so they had to collect them. And of course, some of them were opened. So they used DNA to make sure that this individual was, matching up with the records that they store inside of the casket.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that maybe we have some DNA that was done from the funeral home that we can use. We have my mom's DNA, and we could easily tell whether or not she is related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, the person that's giving us information said that the niece of this individual is a part of the family. Obviously, she's the niece. But when we were talking about how the house is in power of attorney, because the husband and wife have passed away, according to this person, they didn't have any children, so the niece has power of attorney for the house that it's currently unoccupied. And so again, with the niece, we can use her DNA if if exhumation is not going to happen, or it's going to be a very lengthy legal process. We can get information from her if she's willing to cooperate.
Yeah.
Well, and also too, so if the house has been unoccupied since the death of John and his wife,
yeah,
and no one's been in there, there is no telling what kind of other items are in the house.
I know. And we're talking almost a decade now.
Yes. So there might be other photos. There might be other things that John kept. If this is John, okay, and he matches up, there are other items, I promise you, that he has in that house that are related to his family and Ruskin, his mom and dad, other family members. He didn't just throw everything away. I'm sure we could find other items. And if no one else has occupied this house, and according to this individual, No one has lived in that house since his death. So everything in that house, we should be able to hopefully go through it and see what's in there.
Wow.
Well, not only that, but also DNA. If there's a hairbrush
DNA
with
is
hair
in the
strands,
house also.
then there's
Anything
DNA.
he might have drank from, any glass that hadn't been washed, anything he touched. If he is a smoker and there's a cigarette laying in an ashtray, it's all kind of items that we can use.
That's interesting that it's been empty this whole time.
Yeah. That is, well, it's, well, I guess not, since if he died in 2016, it's almost 10 years. And if it's a gated community, it's not like a house that you would rent to someone. And if it's still tied up in the courts or she has power of attorney, maybe she's trying to sell it. Maybe I don't know what the deal with, COVID probably could have put a kibosh on a lot of stuff down there too. So several years could have gone by just related to COVID.
Yeah, and when we did the show in 2022, 3 years ago, for Ken and I to go down there, well, Brazil at that time was ground zero for COVID. In the local paper where I live, they were posting all the the results of the how many people had COVID, how many people died from COVID, and the two countries that were number one in the world were India and Brazil that had the most deaths, because the president of Brazil was kind of a no vaxxer guy. It's like vaccines, that's a waste. And so a lot of people contracted COVID. So for us to get into the country to do the shoot was very difficult. We had to go through a lot of medical kinds of procedures just to get down there, and then to leave. We had to be tested before we get down there. We had to be tested before we left the country to make sure we didn't have COVID coming in or going out. And we had, it was this whole thing. And so, everything just kind of shut down in the country because everyone was getting sick, or a lot of people either got sick or died at the time. So, I can see why, possibly, it's still unoccupied, because they're probably still kind of recovering from that several years later.
Yeah. And obviously, if it's in the courts, I mean, the courts here in the US are slow. I can't imagine what it's like, in Brazil. It's probably just as slow, if not slower.
Well, and too, now this individual who we've been talking with, he has told me that if we come down, he will definitely carry us to the house. He has undoubtedly access to it. I don't know how, but he does. So, I say,
sounds like he lives in the neighborhood.
It's almost kind of like he does in the neighborhood. I almost kind of say like Michael Street, let's saddle up the posse and go.
Exactly. Well, that's what we're planning on doing. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Like I said before, I really think this photograph is like a smoking gun. It really, it's the most independent of the other photograph from 1970 and stuff like that, where you can make some legitimate arguments that it's not them, but the fact that they're standing together and they're in South America, standing next to that gigantic ant hill or whatever it was. And also we picked out, they picked out some data points there. To me, with that photograph is just that they're standing together. The one piece I thought was really interesting is the way John wears his watch, which we kind of broke down, which I thought was unique. And the side of the, the left arm up on his, his forearm. But I don't understand why this is still a mystery now.
I don't know.
And then we're taking it to the nth degree. We're going to be doing some testing on some stuff like next week, which we hope we'll have the answers to it in about, 3 weeks to 4 weeks after that. And that's going to be so exciting. And we're, to further proof. So we're just stacking all our deck because everyone's going to say, oh, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, most of the people in the public kind of agree with us. It's just the only people that seem to be kind of obstinate about it is, some of the law enforcement. Yeah.
But not all of the law enforcement.
No. I haven't shown it to, I'd be curious to see what, we have another ex-law enforcement person federal person who helped us go down there for sent a team down there to look for some stuff. Haven't sent it to him yet, so I'd be curious to see what he says. But based upon
Stewart's FBI.
Mm-hmm.
So I say let a former.
Well,
FBI
actually,
person
we're going to see Stewart like literally in a couple hours.
Well, show it to him, and then
we're in Texas, and
let the person that was looking for Adolf Hitler, U.S. Marshal, look at it. Because both of those law enforcement people agree with us. I mean, they see and they agree with us just from the 1970 photo and other items that we have found. It's only it's only two individuals, Art Roderick and Michael
Dykes
are the only ones who are trying to say that it's not them.
Yeah.
So,
but they don't have it. But they don't have answers to back it up, though. They don't have any.
No, they don't.
That's the funny thing. It's like they don't have a specific argument on why they think it's not them.
And we haven't showed as far as I haven't unless Art is watching these podcasts in our Facebook account. I have not showed him this photo, so I have no clue what his reaction to to what he would say based upon what Michael Street. Now I know him and Michael are friends, but Michael Street assured me that he does not share information with anybody else other than the person that pays. And we had to pay to have this done, for him to look at. So he assured me he does not share this with Art.
Yeah.
But like I said, I read you what he said. He said this should be investigated further.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think we wait until we get this other test done that we're doing, and then hopefully the results of that will yield a positive result like this. And then maybe we go back to Art and see what he thinks.
Well, if it gives us the result that we're hoping for, then this is beyond the photo. This is case closed.
DNA.
Yeah, it's case closed. If it gives us what we're hoping to give it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm very excited where this is going. So I feel like we have traveled a great distance.
I mean, you guys have traveled an enormous distance.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we've only been on the tail end of this stuff and just helping and take it hopefully over the edge here. But yeah, I can't imagine when you first got that. I mean, for me, I just because we're so invested in it now, and and I think a lot of the people that are watching this podcast are invested in it. But I can't imagine how you guys feel. I mean, when you sit there, it's like a new piece of information after all the rocks you've overturned and the places you've been and the people you've spoken to. And now you have one other piece of information that's kind of like, that's not even like, because we get information all the time in people, because there was other photographs that we've kind of looked at. People's like, oh, this is Frank Morris, or this is John and stuff like that. He died in a home and like in the States and stuff like that. But this all matches up with your guys' original thesis that they made it to South America. They lived out their lives, and even the fact that you speculated that Clarence died before John. So that kind of matches that up too. And these photographs, I mean, they're just like, even when we haven't published the second photograph of who we think is John down in South America, but you look at it and it just looks like an older, a little paunchier, John Anglin, wearing a baseball hat, standing in front of his house.
And I will say, I have other photos of my uncles, his brothers, throughout the years. And he does look very similar to Uncle Man when he was around that age. They all had, kind of large bellies from eating well. And but I mean, he does look like one of my uncles, even from that side view. So.
Yeah, and just the way they stand, it's just like you look at all these photographs of your family and stuff like that. It's just the body posture,
language.
The posture, just to me, it's the resting face that really kind of those two resting faces from the mugshot, from his federal mugshot and from Atlanta, and then his ID photo for his neighborhood or whatever, if it was a work thing or something like that. It's just amazing, the resemblance and
Well,
how
the
it
thing
looks like him.
that's good about this information, it's not second or third hand information that you can't really do anything with. Like, oh, I remember seeing this guy in 1982 that looked a lot like John, and he said that he was an escape. It's nothing like that where you can't do anything with this.
Exactly.
That person has since died, and he told it to his daughter, kind of a thing. This is actionable intelligence that we're getting. That when we had Art Roderick on, he was talking about actionable evidence that you can go and you can investigate it, you can examine it, you can test it, you can draw conclusions from it. And we're getting that kind of information. We're getting locations, we're getting names. We talked about the death certificate, which yields a lot of information about the person that we can check out. We believe we know where the house is. If we can get to the house, we can do more forensic kinds of investigations.
Most definitely.
There's a niece that's involved that we can try to get a hold of. So there are people and places we can go to either corroborate or dismiss this information.
Yeah.
Which is invaluable that we can actually do something with this.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be on a plane today.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is not like another Bigfoot sighting or like, saying I saw an article that say that, Jim Morrison's still alive. It's like those kind of things.
Yeah, this is not a grainy photo.
No.
This is a colorized photo. It's very close.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. It's incredible. So I think we'll definitely to our listeners and viewers. I mean, information is very fluid and it comes in spurts, like when, Ken's been talking to this gentleman down there, and we'll get like a flurry of texts through Google Translate and all that kind of thing, because there's a little bit of a language barrier. And hopefully we'll, as we get closer to this, we'll hopefully get somebody to officially translate. But I think it's really exciting. And I really think that we may have something here. So
I totally agree.
And then, our viewers, look at these photographs from the last podcast. I mean, we'll post them up. We're actually going to post them up here throughout the podcast. But tell us what you think. What do you think about it, and whether or not this is John or not? We have some official paperwork saying that it looks like it is.
I would love to, like you said, you asked the people that are watching this podcast, to give us their opinion. I would love for them to send us, go on to the Facebook or respond to this podcast on YouTube or wherever they're watching it at, and just vote. Tell us what you think. I mean, from an amateur perspective, see if you can see what we're seeing and what experts are seeing. So
exactly. I mean, it's like unless you have some vision problems, I think you'll come to the same conclusion.
I agree.
All right, gentlemen, this is awesome. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for making time, and we'll continue on the fight.
All right.
This country was built on a distinctly American work ethic, but today, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries, and with that, we sent away good jobs and diminished our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make a variety of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more. All made right here in the USA, from growing the cotton and adding the final touches. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs for seamsters, cutters, and factory workers in towns and cities across the United States. And it's about more than an income. Jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.